I'm praying for some cooler weather. Hello and welcome. Back to it this week following my recovery week. The plan is for another 3 high mileage weeks ahead of another cutback week and then the Newark Half Marathon in mid-August. I'm praying for some cooler weather. Monday means recovery runs and I was pleased with how good the legs felt after the Coventry Northbrook 10k. I was a little concerned that running hard over hills, which is something I rarely do, would leave my legs feeling a bit beaten up. However, while they did feel tired, which is basically their default setting during marathon training, I felt fine. The afternoon recovery was a bit more of a slog due to the warm weather, but again it was okay. Tuesday was another easy run along the canal, this time pushing up slightly to 11 miles. My legs felt okay and the effort felt right, but the heart rate was slightly higher than it would be normally and the pace was a little slower too at 7:29 per mile. It didn't feel super hot, but it was pretty humid out, so I'm hoping it was just down to that. Weirdly, in the afternoon, despite it being much warmer than the previous day, I managed to keep the heart rate even lower on my recovery run. An important reminder that it's important not to get too caught up in one particular run and look at the overall picture. Workout Wednesday saw the first of the NAZ Elite training sessions from the plan. NAZ Elite are a Hoka-sponsored team based in northern Arizona. They have some great runners, including Scott Forbel, who ran 2:09 at Boston this year, and in a weird coincidence, Alice Wright, who comes from Worcester where I am right now, and in fact went to school just half a mile down the river from where I am. I've been a big fan of the team for a number of years now. They're incredibly open and all their athletes have training logs viewable on Final Surge so you can see exactly what they're doing every single day. Scott Forbel and coach Ben Rosario took this one step further last year and produced a book called Inside a Marathon, which detailed Scott's training towards the New York Marathon. It's a fantastic read for anyone training for a marathon and I highly recommend it. It's really reassuring to see that the elites struggle just as much as us amateurs do. They offer training plans by coach Ben Rosario on Final Surge, and while I don't follow them to the letter, I have incorporated a lot of their workouts into my marathon training with great results at Manchester last year. This session was a ladder fartlek, running 4-3-2-1, 1-2-3-4, 4-3-2-1 minutes at around 10k pace with 2 minutes recovery. That adds up to 30 minutes of running at 10k pace hopefully, so it's a solid workout. I was really pleased with how it went, averaging 5:48 per mile on the fast sections. That's around 8 seconds per mile faster than I managed when I did this session just before Manchester. Back then it was a windy day, but then I also took much longer recoveries at some points. So overall, a good session. Thursday was an eventful canal run. There are several pairs of swans along the canal with young cygnets. A pair close into town are pretty friendly. However, another pair further out had cygnets a few weeks ago and they're pretty defensive. They were sat at the side of the path when I approached, and as I went past, one of the adults snapped at me and even briefly gave chase. Thankfully, a quick swerve avoided them, but I think I'm going to have to start incorporating strides into my canal runs if this carries on. My recovery run that afternoon felt absolutely terrible. My legs felt wooden and I just couldn't get into a rhythm. The pace and heart rate was fine, but it was one of those runs where you wonder how on earth you're going to carry on training the next day when you feel so bad on such a short run. I also had a little bit of stiffness in my middle metatarsal on my left foot, which was slightly concerning. Thankfully, the following morning the legs felt much better. The metatarsal was still a little tight, but it eased off through the run. It was a beautiful sunrise as I drank my pre-run coffee, but by the time I made it out there, it was peeing it down with rain. It remained damp through the whole run, but it was actually quite a refreshing change. Despite that, and a breeze, I averaged 6:47 per mile, probably one of my best medium long runs ever. This continued into my afternoon recovery, where the legs felt fresh and bouncy despite the miles in the legs. Saturday was a nice morning and a lovely run along the canal again. I had another run in with the swans, but thankfully they didn't chase me this time. I averaged 7:16 per mile, which is much more like it. That just left Sunday's long run. I decided to do another loop out up to Droitwich and back along the canals. It was another lovely peaceful morning and it was great being out there. I felt a bit tired towards the end, perhaps a bit of dehydration as I don't generally carry water with me on long runs. The legs felt strong though, and when I saw a friend on the last mile of the run, he said I looked fresh and smooth, so that's positive. 22.5 miles, averaging 6:54 per mile. That'll do. So that's another week done, and a numerically pleasing 111.1 miles for the week. I am starting to notice the odd niggle, but that's inevitable when you're marathon training, especially when you run the high mileages that I do. I'm being careful to listen to my body though. I've been running long enough that I can generally tell when something's a niggle or when it's slightly more serious. I'm always ready to stop immediately if something doesn't feel right. I know at this point, consistency is far more important than any individual run. Ultimately, training to get the best out of yourself is always a tightrope walk, but touch wood, I'm still on the line. I'm putting in similar, if not better, paces than I was prior to Manchester, and in arguably tougher conditions given the warm summer weather. I can really feel the momentum building, and it's so nice to feel fit and strong again after a tough 12 months. If I can keep going like this, I'm excited to see what I can do in September in Berlin. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel so you can follow my journey to Berlin. And if you have any questions about my training or any suggestions about what you'd like me to cover in future videos, please let me know in the comments below. Cheers!